We good here? I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is United versus Everybody. I am your host, Sean, and this is the Manchester United fan channel built on your opinion, powered by your opinion, and just grown by your opinion. You guys have helped this channel get over to 1,100 subscribers in the last few months. Couldn't be more thankful. Love to see where it goes next. So keep hitting that like button, keep subscribing, keep getting involved in the channel. It's the best way to get involved and put your name in the ring for one of these giveaways. We just did 2 of them on Saturday's show, and we'll do more throughout the year. Like I said, I did promise once we get to 2K subscribers, I'll do more giveaways, so you all can clip that up and hold me accountable. But we're going to dive right in. It has been 24 hours since that shit show of a performance against Liverpool. I hope we've all had a chance to decompress and blow off a little steam after it. And of course, if you came by yesterday, I was here with my initial reaction. It's kind of a place for everybody to kind of just vent and just kind of let it all out. And Danny, welcome back. I did get your email, but I just saw it a little bit ago. I will pop that stuff into the mail tomorrow, Wednesday. Today's Labor Day, so it won't be any mail, but I did see it, so you are good. And Nick, if you are watching, I did get yours as well, so I'll hook you guys up. I got you covered. Justin's in the chat. Yep. I'm a little tired today. I was actually playing, had a little kickabout with Justin earlier. If you guys remember, Justin was here Saturday, so he and I had to kickabout earlier for a couple hours. First time kicking a ball since I hurt my foot towards the end of May. So foot is good. Everything's fine. I'm looking forward to getting back out. Might need a couple more days because when you get old, the rust it accumulates faster. It's harder to shake off, and it is what it is. Welcome to life. So Father Time is undefeated, as the old saying goes. So Usman, welcome back, bud. So obviously yesterday we had our initial reaction. We all were kind of venting the knee-jerk reactions, the anger, the frustration, the embarrassment. It was all getting out there. This is a safe space. Treat it like group therapy. Just get it all out. All right. What happens here stays here. So today, though, we are going to look at the performance a little more closely. As always, I take 24 hours. I really take a good look at it, watch the match again, and kind of see if I can disseminate things down into a couple main ideas. As always, these are my 3 thoughts on that match. Danny B says, I crippled in bed past 2 days with my back, going to a chiropractor tomorrow. Yikes, pal. Hopefully nothing serious. Hopefully you get better. The back is always hard. Your back is connected to like every part of your body based on what part of like your spine is having issues. And so it's so funny how like your back can be connected to like your wisdom teeth, for instance, and stuff. It's just so strange. So I remember, I want to say it was an Arsenal player a long time ago who was having some issues, and they removed his wisdom teeth and the issue stopped. So our bodies are weird. So it's one of the questions I'll ask God one day. It's just, why wisdom teeth? Like, why? Why mosquitoes? Like, why? Why do we have them? Usman says, United are so trash. We were yesterday, pal. But as we'll get into today, we'll see if there were any positives to take away. So before we do jump in again, hit the like button, subscribe, and then as a special treat for you guys today, when it is time to buy your next jersey, check the link in the video description. I put a special link in there. The link is in my channel description as well. If you want to get $5 off your next purchase at GoGo Shop. I've gotten a couple of jerseys from GoGo Shop, and really good quality. They're not expensive at all. They've got all the jerseys, all the teams. They've got tracksuits, they've got shorts, they got socks. But hit the link in the video description if you guys, when you want to go ahead and buy your next jersey or anything, or you can simply use the discount code 65243E, all one, and that'll get you $5 off your next orders. GoGo Shop was nice enough to hook me up with a special discount code for you guys to use. So go ahead and check that out next time it's time to buy a jersey. So moving on, I want to talk a little bit about my 3 thoughts, and it wasn't all bad necessarily, but definitely wasn't all good. So we are going to dive right in to the 3 thoughts on the match. Don't forget to get your thoughts in as well when you do. And sorry, I just want to check something on a computer real quick. So first things first, slow and sloppy, lost the race. So I've said it against Brighton, and it was more the same against Liverpool. Do you remember what I said against Liverpool? We can't afford to be slow. We can't afford to be sloppy like we were against Brighton, and we just did. Too slow, too sloppy, too many individual errors. And again, if this all sounds familiar, there's a reason why. We did the exact same thing. You didn't accidentally click on my Brighton 3 thoughts match. It was literally the exact same thing. It's just the same shit, different day between these two matches. And it's frustratingly impossible to figure out what's going on and find a solution for it. And you can't just say sack the manager. If it were that simple, why have we gone through so many managers in the last decade? You realize we've gone through like 6 managers in the last decade since Ferguson retired. If it were as simple as sacking a manager or buying a player, we would have done it. It's not the way it is. You have to stick to a manager. You have to build for the future. You have to tough out the hard times. I mean, look what happened with Klopp. Look what happened with Pep. Look what Arsenal are doing with Arteta. It's no coincidence that the 3 clubs who have stuck with the managers for as long as they have are the 3 clubs who are actually successful in this country right now. So it's a little food for thought. It's not fair either to simply say, well, it's the manager's job to change the player's mentality. Like, it's a bit of an oversimplification, because I can tell you from experience, and I'm not trying to say this because I'm a therapist, I know best. I can just tell you from experience, and it's not just therapists. Ask anybody with kids, ask anybody who has employees, ask any police officers, coaches, whatever. It's not easy to say something or to say not to do something and just have it happen. Like, it's just not easy. You can't just point the finger at somebody and say, do this or don't do that, and then just expect it to happen time and time again. You know, players and people really have years of just established habits and thought patterns and all these things, and you can't easily change those. You can't easily quickly turn Bruno Fernandes into a Hollywood pass, high risk pass, low percentage pass player into a careful, keep it on the floor, calm things down tactician. It's not going to happen overnight. You can't overnight turn Marcus Rashford in from a counter-attacking forward to someone who's going to slow things down and stuff and be a little bit more focused and a little bit more composed. It's not possible to do that overnight. And so, short of replacing every player in the squad, what can you do to get the players to move the ball quicker, to pass it better, stop leaving multiple opponents unmarked at the back post? I mean, who's at fault for Casemiro playing that stupid pass and losing the ball? Who's to blame for Xerxes missing those chances? Where do you point the finger when we're switching off in defense? You know, why are we holding on to the ball too long and not communicating with a simple man on when Casemiro gets closed down or Manu gets swarmed or if Collier gets the ball in the final third and then he gets immediately taken away? Where's the communication? Where's the responsibility? Where's the teamwork? As I've said before, you can get away with these kind of things happening a few times in a match. You can get away with a person having a stinker. You can get away with a player having a bad day. But you'll never, ever, ever get away with it when it all happens for 90 minutes and the majority of your starting 11 is all having a stinker. You're just never going to get a result that way, especially not against this Liverpool side. It was just one poor pass, one bad touch, one brief lack of confidence, one poor finish. It was just one too many of all these things. And in and of themselves, cool. If it happens, it's going to happen. It happens to every team all the time. You know, it just is what it is. But after, when they're all happening, just like Brighton, when we said that, you can't expect to get a result against this Liverpool side when that happens. You're just not going to. So, and then if you look at the difference, it's clinical. We get 3 big chances. We get 0 goals. Liverpool get 3 chances. They get 3 goals. You know, that's the difference on the day. We actually have the most chances missed, most big chances missed in the league already with 9. I think the next most team is 7. Lots of work to do. What do you got going on here? Danny says Bruno needs to play deeper and get rid of the 9-10 high press or go back to more of a mid block. The distance between the back 4 and the mid was criminal. Constantly drew Leach out of position. Yeah, I would like to see us maybe experiment with a 4-3-3 at some point in the future, maybe with Ugarte, especially if Ugarte gets a little older. I think, like you're saying, there's a big gap between the midfielders. There's a reason Kobbie Mainoo has 3 Liverpool players in between him and any other United player. Like Casemiro, we'll talk a little bit about Casemiro, obviously, but it's not helping Casemiro when there's so much space between him and another teammate when he gets the ball. I think a 4-3-3, and here's the thing, you can play a 4-3-3 in attack and a 4-2-3-1 defensive. You could play a 4-3-3 after you get up by a couple goals. You can do lots of different things. You're allowed to have some tactical flexibility. I like the 4-3-3 a lot. Obviously, it was a big deal in the mid 2010s and stuff. You know, everybody was using it. But it's just a matter of manager. And so we can talk a little bit about Ten Hag a little bit later, obviously, but there is still lots of work to do. And it's hard to know exactly the solution because it's hard to pinpoint exactly the problem. But like I said against Brighton, like I said today, too many sloppy passes, too slow to move the ball, too many individual errors, and that was a big deal. So let me know your thoughts on that. Number 2, costly Casemiro. So we knew we were going to talk about this today, because we talked about it a little bit on Brighton. Danny B says 4-3-3. I agree, Sean. 4-4-2. Shadow press off the ball. Yeah, you can do different things in defense, different things when you have the ball. You can do different things under different scenarios. You can do a lot of that stuff, but it's. I don't know if a lot of our players have the tactical knowledge of footballing IQ and just maybe the discernment to know when to do this. I think that I was talking to Justin earlier while we were kicking the ball around. Like, you look at what happened for that goal we conceded. I think it was our second, that simple cross to the back post, and the same goal we conceded against Brighton. It's almost like these players here press and they think that just means everybody go swarm the ball. But pressing is not just everybody running at an opponent. That's not the way it works. There's a system to it. There's a whole way of doing it as a team, knowing what your triggers are, all that. And we saw a little bit of it during preseason. I just don't know why it's falling apart all of a sudden. But as far as Casemiro goes, that was a shit show display from Casemiro. There's no way to sugarcoat that. There's no way around it. He got progressed, and this was only in 45 minutes of football. It wasn't even like a whole 90. This was so many bad moments from him and bad decisions and poor passes and all of it in 45 minutes. I can't tell you what he was thinking trying to play that ball that led to Liverpool's first goal. He had nothing but time and space on the ball, but he plays a horrible ball straight to a Liverpool player, and they launch a counterattack. Here, I'll bring it up on the screen for you. Hold on a second, so you can see what I'm talking about, in case you can't remember. So you can see here Casemiro on the left side of the screen, right? He's got the ball. Now, you can't see, you can kind of see it up at the top right here. You can kind of see, I think that's Dallo up there. So I think he wants to dink that ball over to Dallo, but the contact on it, the technique, everything is all wrong. And it ends up kind of going towards Kobbie Mainoo, but Kobbie's already kind of moving forward. And so the ball is intercepted and Liverpool immediately launch a counter. And if you look at that, the only other person there besides Casemiro, because you can see on the bottom of the screen, Mazraoui, the only person here is De Ligt, who's behind Casemiro. So watch what happens when Casemiro plays that ball. You've got 3 Liverpool players there, plus the one player who intercepts the ball. So you are immediately outnumbered on defense, which is bare basics, what you never want to happen. And that's not necessarily all down to Casemiro. It's not necessarily all down to system. It's a combination, a perfect storm of a lot of bad things happening all at once. And this is why it's very, very hard to play the high press when you've got your fullbacks up high and everything, because you are very vulnerable if you do lose the ball against the counterattack. And we saw it. Liverpool were very clinical. We were not, because if you look at who is on the ball in those situations for Liverpool, this is why it only took them a couple passes to get from their end of the pitch to ours versus who's on the ball. Casemiro was the one dropping deep to pick up the ball between the defenders and really launch the attack. And that's really not the ideal situation for us to be in. If anybody should be doing that, it should be Kobbie Mainoo. Ideally, it almost should be Bruno. I don't know why we switched Bruno, but because Bruno was playing a little further up. It used to be Bruno. And so it's very, very difficult. Danny says, all you had to do was play a simple pass in front of Maz. And yeah, there are a lot of options there. It clearly seemed like he was trying to dink that over because Rashford and Dallo were kind of right next to each other. It just was a bad contact on the ball. And this is what happens when you just start to kind of lose confidence in yourself, when you start to let the pressure get to you. You just start making these sloppy, silly mistakes because you're not able in the moment. And it's hard in the middle of a match to kind of slow things down because you're in the middle of a match, right? But that's where resilience comes in. That's where a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of self-talk. That's where, as teammates, let's help each other out here. But the real worry here, again, like I said, is only De Ligt behind him. And so 3 Liverpool players ready to immediately transition and attack. And so there's no excuse and this is where the system comes in. There's no excuse for being that open and vulnerable, right? This isn't group therapy. We don't need to be open and vulnerable here. Like, we need to be compact. And this is where I'd like to see Ruud come into the coaching a little bit, because Ruud's PSV Eindhoven side were very well known for being very hard to break down, very compact. And so I'd like to see him kind of maybe be allowed to integrate some of that into the coaching as well. Danny says, instead of keeping it simple and playing it to Maz, he chooses the Hollywood pass like Bruno. And I don't think we help Casemiro out sometimes when he's the guy who's in that situation, leading the attack and building and taking it off the defenders. He was dropping in between the defenders, not to defend, but to pick up the ball and start the attack. That's where you need guys like your João Neves, like your Frankie de Jong. Like, those are who you get in those situations, not Casemiro. I'm struggling to see Casemiro's role in football now, because he can't be a lone six anymore. He's not a playmaker. Is he an 8? Is he like a box to box, like a late box crashing, like box to box midfielder, kind of like what McTominay was doing for us? Like, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on Casemiro in that situation, because it didn't get better for him as the half went on. He lost the ball again later on in the first half, about 15 yards away outside of our box. He just got pushed off it, bullied off it too easily, in my opinion. There was no foul there. Nobody spoke to him. He wasn't paying attention. Whatever it was, it should not have happened. Liverpool immediately, when they won that ball back, had 5 players on the transition, and the ball was in the back of the net before we knew what was going on. In any case, Castle was hooked at halftime. I was initially a little worried to see Collier coming on to replace him, because he's young. It's really kind of throwing him in the deep end in this case. But then I thought, there's literally no way he could do any worse than the way Casemiro was doing. There's literally no way. Asif says, this wasn't supposed to be a journey without challenges. Erik ten Hag has skills to turn it around, but he has a thin squad, not enough midfield cover. Danny says on Casemiro, he doesn't have pace or legs to play 8. He's too hesitant. That split-second decision is gone. Yeah, and that's why I say I struggle to see what Casemiro offers in a team now. I really do, and that's why the thumbnail says, is he done? Like, I know some people have been talking. I remember, like, Hausen yesterday was talking about, like, the dude's finished. I think he might be. I don't know. But this is the problem. No Saudi side wanted to pay for him. Like, it's kind of like Ronaldo when Ronaldo threw a fit and nobody wanted to buy him, so he had to go throw a fit. Maybe Casemiro will go jump on and talk to Piers Morgan. I don't know, but I think he's done at this level. I mean, it might be. It's hard because we can't turn around. We got context, right? We don't want to look at Casemiro and automatically think that Ugarte is going to be the savior. Ugarte's young. He's never even kicked the ball competitively in this league. He's not even really kicked the ball competitively since playing for Uruguay at the Copa America. He doesn't have a whole lot of football in his feet this summer. So it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get up to speed. Let's not put too much pressure on Ugarte or Collier, and let's just see what happens. Again, it seemed like we were getting a lot of depth in, and we talked about having good depth. Like, we've got some quality players in, but then as we've seen, one player has a bad day, one player gets injured, and we're right back to square one. So we need to just be patient. And again, as Asif says, there's some context here. You know, the squad is thinner than I think a lot of people realized. Asif says, tough out the hard times, agreed, but do we have time to change things around? It just depends on, and really all it's going to depend on is the players, Ten Hag and Ineos. It's not going to depend on what we have to say. It really isn't. Sir Jim and his team did not look too happy in the stands. Sir Alex did not look too happy in the stands, but the chips are going to fall where they fall now. This is Ten Hag's 3rd season, and we're going to talk a little bit about Ten Hag in a second here, but it's, you know, managers kind of make or break their careers with the small decisions. Danny says he needs to bin the 4-man high press and drop fullbacks deeper, or at least let one sit with CV or CM. And here's the thing too, on that note, I said it all last season, when you want to play out from the back and your top center backs are injured for that tactic, you can't do it anymore. If you want to press from the front and a player that you identified and brought in Mason Mount is not fit to do it, and if you say Xerxes not fit, then you have to stop. Go back to the 4-2-3-1 and try that for a little bit until you can get back up to speed. If you say you don't have time to implement tactics with these players, and in a match against Liverpool is not the time to do that. Stick with what works. Be a little bit more pragmatic. I don't mind being boring. I don't mind trying to counterattack more at home against Liverpool if that's what you need to do. Just, it's hard. I feel for him when you want to play your system and stuff, and you think and you really believe in your system, but at the same time, if you don't have the players for it, you can't do it. It's just, it is what it is. You can't have a bunch of Nemanja Matiches or something and want to play, or like a Peter Crouch, and say, oh, we're just going to play counterattacking football. Like that, you just can't do it. And so it's, we'll try not to put too much pressure on Casemiro, try not to put too much pressure on Ugarte, trying to put too much pressure on Collier. International break now. We'll see. It got worse for Cass. It almost seemed like we needed to like slow things down a little bit, take some sting out of the game and just pass it around, make it a little boring, and give ourselves some breathing room by just getting a good spell of possession, passing the ball around, helping players build some momentary confidence by just stringing together a couple simple passes, building a foundation of some simple things. But we just kept forcing it and putting Casemiro and putting Kobbie Mainoo into these horrible situations where they're getting swarmed and they're not getting any time in the ball, and he just couldn't cope with it. He already looked shattered at that point, and so it just wasn't helping him the way we were trying to force things. So maybe he's just not able to keep up with the pace of the game anymore. We saw these type of performances last season from Casemiro. Like I said yesterday, his performance reminded me a lot of Coventry when he just fell apart. It did cost him last season a spot in the FA Cup final. Remember, he wasn't there for that. He may not just be able to play at this level anymore. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. I think that there is something wrong, though, if you wait too long to admit it and it costs your team points like it did yesterday. I don't think it helps matter that his wife is out here posting photos of his trophies on Instagram. That just seems a little weak to me personally. What are you guys' thoughts on Casemiro? Let me know what you're thinking here. Danny B, if you can't see by now, Cass can't play out from the first phase. Eric Ten Hag needs a doctor. Danny B says he knew that before the FA Cup. Yeah, and we talked a little bit yesterday about Ten Hag, and we talked a little bit about Saturday too. Go check out that video too on our season expectations. One of my big expectations from Ten Hag this season was I need him to stop being so loyal and sticking with players who are clearly either just not good enough, they're playing poorly, whether that's Rashford, whether that's Casemiro. I don't know who it is. Like Anthony, we saw it a lot in the last couple of years with Anthony. Like he just kept forcing it, and using Garnacho pretty much as a sub. Anthony's not it. It just is what it is. Sorry, Ten Hag. I know he wanted to finish your little pet project that you started at Ajax with him, and he was a world beater at Ajax. He can't hang it. He just can't hang in the Premier League. It is what it is. Not every player is cut out for every single league. And that's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean you're a bad player. It's just, it is what it is. But we will see what happens with Casemiro. There was some interest, and then the Saudi league didn't want to pay. I heard a rumor that Ronaldo was trying to get him over there, but we'll see what happens. Rabiot's still out there, just saying. But number 3, silver lining. It wasn't all doom and gloom as much as we want to be angry and vent and decompress. Yesterday was the decompression day. Today we're kind of looking at it a little bit more analytically, right? So there was a little bit of a silver lining there. Danny B says, honestly, play Ennis or Scanlon over Anthony at this point. Yeah, Ennis had some, and Biancheri had, some good results the other day. Ennis had a goal the other day. We have a lot of good youngsters. I'm really excited for the next couple of years as far as the youngsters go. So silver linings. Everyone is going to be all over Eric Ten Hag after this, and rightfully so to a degree, right? This was an unacceptable result, unacceptable performance. Mostly, in my opinion, not that because it was Liverpool. I think for a lot of fans it is because Liverpool, but for me, it's more about how easy it was for Liverpool. They just didn't look like they had to try. I mean, we can say this is unacceptable, but was the result surprising? And this is where I want to add some context. It doesn't take an expert to watch the match yesterday and see a difference between these two sides. And it's not just because some players are better than the others. You have to remember, so Liverpool, this was a Liverpool side that finished 20 points ahead of us last season. Realistically, we're not catching up to them or Arsenal or Manchester United. We're not catching up to them. 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 We're not catch or City anytime soon. We're just not. Liverpool are not also in the middle of a rebuild. They're not in their, third year with this manager. Liverpool have a squad that's been together for a long time now. Some of these players have been playing for 5-6 years together, and they're very well drilled. They're all very good players. Our squad is just not. The squad that Arne Slot inherited is way better than the one Ten Hag inherited. And the reason that is because Liverpool stuck with Jurgen Klopp for so long. Even after the first 4 years were very, very, very rough for them. If you remember the first 4 years, Ten Hag maybe covered a multitude of sins by what he's won in his first 2 seasons, but it's no coincidence, and Justin and I were talking about this in the car, it's no coincidence that the clubs who are successful in the Premier League over the last decade are also the clubs who've stuck with their managers. City, Liverpool, and you can argue Arsenal. Arsenal haven't won shit, but they've gotten second, and you'd be hard pressed to find teams who can beat them on any given day. And so it's not a coincidence, Like I said earlier, sacking a manager is it's not the answer. Remember too that Ten Hag drew against this Liverpool side twice last year, and we knocked them out of the FA Cup. And so you can't say he hasn't improved since the first season. We are improving, and I'm going to break down some stats that show you that. Despite yesterday's performance and the individual errors that cost us recently, you can't say he hasn't improved us. The same fixture last season, so the 2-2, Liverpool had 62% possession and 28 shots, compared to 47 possession and 11 shots that they had yesterday. Danny says Arteta came 8th twice and 5th. Yeah, he has, but they're building is the point. That he's been there 5-6 years now, and they are building, and so they haven't had to chalk and change their squad. They haven't had to chalk and change the manager every couple of years. They have a long-term plan, and they know it's going to be rough. And I've criticized Arsenal for finishing 8th, finishing 5th, but would you ever feel 100% confident going up against Arsenal right now? Probably not, and that's the difference, is they're building. So yes, Liverpool, 15% less possession and less than half of the shots compared to what the same fixture last season when we drew them 2-2. Nearly all of Liverpool's stats were worse yesterday than they were in that 2-2 draw from last season. They had far fewer corners, worse pass completion. They completed way fewer passes total. They had a worse XG, half as many touches in our box than they did last season. The only thing they were better than is defensively, because they were cutting out our passes and they were winning their tackles. That was the main difference. Slot has them parked a little bit more, and they're just cutting out everything we were trying to do. Again, they have a squad of great players, and they've been playing together for years. So I think that after the initial embarrassment and the initial anger subsides, we're also going to have to be reminding of ourselves that half of our back four haven't had a preseason yet. And last year, we didn't have several of Ten Hag's preferred players fit, and it was our first season with his preferred keeper last season. So he still hasn't really been able to fully implement that system. Now, I know I said in my expectations, I need to see more. He's getting his players. He is. Third game into the season is where the context comes in here. I'm not going back on what I said. Third game into the season is very, very, very early to be throwing the toys out of the pram when this. I won't lie to you. I am starting to get a bit frustrated with Andre Onana because he's starting to piss me off with his keeping. I told you, the guy's too big. He's too muscular. He can't move quickly. His positioning was all wrong for a lot of these goals yesterday. Very frustrating. Keep in mind, too, Liverpool bought 4 midfielders last summer to raise an already stellar squad to a whole new level. They completely rebuilt their midfield. We have a 19-year-old Kabi Menu who's literally only been playing first-team football in this league since November last season. And we have Casemiro. Liverpool players have been playing together for twice as long as Ten Hag's even been at United, and their bench is stacked still. We still have players for whom yesterday was their first full debut in this league. And we still have players who've not even made their debut for us, who've not even kicked the ball for us. Again, very little rotation, very little depth right now in midfield. We're bringing on Toby Collier, who's straight from the academy, basically, as well. So Danny says, yeah, Onana not good enough. I've seen enough now, Sean, to be honest, pal. Yeah, Onana, I don't want, that's a whole nother show. We might have to do a video on Onana. Onana, I've said yesterday, as a keeper, you need to be able to make saves. You need to command your area. And Onana just can't do it. He's made a couple of good saves, to be fair to him, but it starts with your positioning as a keeper, which starts with being able to read the play. Like that simple ball to the back post. We don't need Onana and every other defender over there. Onana needs to start, his starting position needs to be a little more central. Same for the goal that was low. He just left the whole side of that goal mouth wide open. Not good at all. So yeah, very little depth options in midfield. So whether it's his fault or not, Ten Hag is going to bear the full weight of the responsibility for these results, like I said. So again, there's no point in sitting here, and I said this last season too, there's no point in sitting here and screaming and hashtagging and all this stuff, Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out. He'll decide what that looks like. Ineos will decide what that looks like. The players will. I don't see the harm in just supporting everything. You don't have to agree. We can give criticism. That's fine. But you can still love somebody like in your life, your friend, your family, your spouse, and still give them feedback, still give them criticism, still not agree with them, still tell them when they've done something wrong. Doesn't mean you don't support them and love them. We love this club. We need to back the players, we need to back the manager, and let the chips fall where they may. Danny says, Vitek, I read, is playing well on loan. Don't get me started on keepers that were on loan, because you guys know how I feel about Matty Kovar. I love Matty Kovar. He was so good when he was on loan in the Czech league. I can't believe that we didn't at least take a second to look at him before spending money on Onana. And I'm not trying to make it about Onana. I'm making this right now. I'm focusing on Kovar. Kovar is a very good keeper. And so I wish we could have saved some money. That could have, I don't want to talk about it. It's only going to make me mad. I'm going to punch something. So anyway, Ten Hag will bear the full weight of the responsibility. That's the nature of the job, and he knows it. And he also is not exempt from criticism. Again, whether it's his fault or not, the results, he's going to have the responsibility, but he also does play a role in this. We've all been saying it for weeks, and we wonder what it's going to take for Ten Hag to drop Rashford to the bench like he did with Antony last season. I keep saying he spent, but he wanted Antony. We spent a lot of money on Antony. And Ten Hag persisted with Antony, but then he realized it's just not going to happen. We got to drop him. If you can drop a player who costs that much money and who's on that much a week, we have to be able to do the same with Rashford as well. Compared to Garnacho and Ahmad, someone's got to tell me what Ten Hag has seen from Rashford to show him that he deserves to start over these other players. I'm not saying Ahmad and Garnacho are world class, but compared to Rashford, they are right now because they're just doing better. Ahmad constantly gets the ball into the box pretty much whenever he's on it. Garnacho is just a little terror, I feel like, for defenses because he's just always running at you and he's always trying to get forward and he's always just not giving them a moment to breathe. And Rashford just doesn't look confident. We saw the clips going around online right now. He gets the ball, he's on the edge of the box, and then he just stops, turns back, passes it, and just kills everything. That's literally the same thing that Antony's been doing, that we've been criticizing over and over again. I don't know what was going on in Rashford's head there, but I can't understand because we've seen even recently, a couple of years ago, in that situation, he would try to do something. He'd take a shot or something. There's a lot of gray in between trying to run through three defenders and stopping and killing all the momentum of the attack. There's a lot of gray in there, and Rashford is playing on both extremes right now. He's doing both ends of that spectrum, and those are the worst decisions you can make. Dark Crow, welcome back, bud. How are you? So I don't know why you dropped the player of the month to start Rashford, who's I don't like trying to play Rashford into form is costing us right now. He's getting the fewest touches consistently the last couple games of any other player on the pitch. And it's just he's not getting himself involved. And you remember what I said in the prediction show, too, about one of my demands from Ten Hag this season is that he needs to stop sticking with these players who aren't performing, and that does include Rashford. It's hard right now because we sold Sancho. Anthony's not good. We really have only got three wingers to start. But like Danny says, what if it's going to take bringing on a youngster like Ennis and like starting him against Southampton or something, or putting him on the bench alongside Rashford and making them both sit next to each other while Ahmad and Garnacho are on the pitch doing their thing, then if that's what it takes, I get to some degree, like Fergie, your man management, you can't coach each player the same way. Just like if you've got multiple children at home, they are so different. You can't always necessarily parent them the same way. I get it. But what we've been doing with Rashford is not working. I don't buy into the whole philosophy of just being their friend and just pushing them and supporting them and just like it's all smiles, it's all vibes. I don't do that. Like the players need to be told hard truths sometimes. I think Rashford's biggest problem is he hasn't surrounded himself with people who are willing to tell him hard truths. And I think when it comes to criticism, kind of like Sancho to some degree, he just doesn't want to hear it, or maybe he can't hear it. I don't know, but whatever's going on needs to change. Let me know your thoughts on Rashford. It was too easy once we would lose possession for Liverpool to get up the pitch. Roy Keane said it too after the match. He said, at this level, you expect to do better. But it shouldn't be so simple that one mistake, one pass, and someone is in on goal. It shouldn't be as simple as that, but it is. And that's what I was saying yesterday, too. Like, it's one pass after Liverpool win the ball literally in their own third, and they're already in our area, and they're already getting a goal. Danny says Rashford is finished. Rashford's, and we did that video on him a few weeks ago. If you guys want to go watch that, is this season a make or break for Rashford? This is a make or break because he's not young, despite what Gary Neville will have you believe. And he's going to have to decide, because if Ineos are sticking with Tenhag and Rashford is not suited to the Tenhag system, then it might be best for him to move on, go to PSG, go someplace else. I don't know. But if we need to look at a winger that's going to be better suited for the system, and if we're going to stick with Tenhag, then we need to do that. And sometimes you do have to say goodbye to a player who's been there since he was a kid. We just did it with McTominay. Rashford can't be treated any differently. The only difference is Rashford just got a new contract a year ago. So Ten Hag's post-match comments weren't great. If you guys watched the post-match presser, first of all, I didn't realize this until I watched. Did people think Casemiro had left the stadium at halftime? That's so weird. Only Ronaldo does that kind of shit. Ten Hag explained, though, they took Casemiro off because we had to take risks, apparently, and we needed faster players. I would say the bigger risk was starting Casemiro in the first place. Sorry, I got to take more water. Allergies are so bad today, and I spent 2 hours kicking a ball around outside, so my throat is really dry. So I don't know what risks we were trying to take, taking off Casemiro and putting on Collier. I guess if the risk was playing a youngster over a 32-year-old Champions League winner, fine. I don't have time either for the excuse that we're still building a whole, like we still need time. Like I know I said earlier, like some of these players are still go, but like Ten Hag, it's not necessarily that it isn't a good reason. It's that I'm tired of Ten Hag using it in these pressers. Like we got to come up with something different because you're just making yourself look bad. Danny says we will see Coney sooner than we think. I think we might as well. I think after this international break, I think things might look a lot different on that pitch, at least in the personnel. I'd like to see Casemiro given some time away, not like vacation, but just time on the bench, come on as a sub when maybe we're up by a goal or two, if we ever get to that point again, and just keep things controlled, just be a presence. Ten Hag was asked the same question that I've really been complaining about do you think Ugarte would have made a difference if we'd gotten him sooner? I've said that many, many times. But again, Ten Hag's response is all about how it will take time to ease him in. And I said the same thing. And I get that. And I've said it myself, but this is why I'm frustrated. If you know that, okay, if you're Ten Hag and okay, I need a little bit of time to get these players in, okay, Ugarte hasn't played a minute since Uruguay. He's going to take some time. Then why aren't you pushing Ineos to get him in sooner? Why are you waiting until deadline day, basically, to get that deal done if it's going to take you another 2 or 3 weeks just to get him fit? That should have been done a month prior, and then he would have been ready. Even if he wasn't ready to play when you first signed him, he could have been ready by now. He could have made a difference. I'm not saying he definitely would have, but we'll never know now, and that's the frustrating part. But no, we saved a few million, though, so 6-point drops is worth it, I guess, as far as Ineos are concerned. That's going to bug me. It bugged me about Casemiro. It's going to bug me this time now. It's clear Ten Hag was a little rattled in this presser. I get it. No one wants to sit down and field questions after a defeat like that. His responses were just a bit frazzled, though, and a bit, I want to say frantic, but they were just slightly kind of just very defensive. It reminded me of like if a kid gets caught doing something wrong and then they're trying to explain themselves out of trouble. It kind of got that kind of vibe from it. If you guys watched it, um, I just don't like. He's not the best in front of the camera, Ten Hag. It's like even looking at the difference between English between him and Arne Slot. Like Ten Hag's English is way, way worse than I thought. I'm not trying to be ethnocentric and saying, well, you just need to speak English better, because I don't. But like compared to someone like Arne Slot, like, and this is maybe this is a part of why things are getting lost in translation, because Ten Hag's English is just really not great. But it's one thing to rightfully call out like rude interviewers, like Shearer after winning the FA Cup, if you remember that bullshit. But it's another thing entirely to start throwing out Harry Potter metaphors and telling journalists you're sorry for them. Like that was where the presser kind of took a little turn for the weird, in my opinion. Not a good look for Ten Hag in that regard. Maybe stay away from the metaphors. Just be literal, be boring. I don't care. But Danny, did you watch Slot interview? I did watch a little bit of it. What he had to say. Didn't he say something about like he was surprised at how easy it was and how frequently they found themselves in those kind of 1v1 situations or something? I didn't watch all of it, but I did watch some of it. It's hard. I don't get Sky, so if I do watch it, it's got to be on YouTube or something. But why? What else did he have to say, Danny? Let me know. It was one of those points where after we lost, it's like you got to stay off the internet for a while, or else you're just going to make yourself more angry. And the mob mentality is going to take over. This group think. Everyone's going to start thinking the same things. So fair play to Ten Hag, though, for not wanting to discuss positives. He said, I don't want to talk about any positives. He just said, he just admitted it wasn't good enough. The performance is not at all what fans deserved. And so fair play to him for that. I don't think we can sit here and talk about the silver linings and any positives, but the presser was not the time. And so I don't have a problem with that. But then he almost completely negates it with his response to the next question. So he was asked if it's the players or his coaching that's responsible for the same mistakes being made over and over. Now, Ten Hag was a bit testy. And he was kind of dancing in Klopp in his last couple of years. He was kind of dancing in Mourinho or in Louis van Gaal territory with his response. But he's basically he asked the journalist to share what mistakes he thinks we made. And I don't think he was prepared for the journalist to just throw out a list. And it was a valid list, but his response was not great. He's, I feel sorry for you. Like, I'm sorry for you. We've won this many. And I get it. We can all know that it's true. We can all know that it's true that, yes, we've beaten City who in the finals. We've won a lot of cups. But we need to start moving forward, Ten Hag. We can know it. We can say it when we're bantering. We can do it. You can't. Like, you just can't keep using that as an excuse in the press conference, because you're going to get slaughtered for it, bro. So we can use it when we're bantering. You as a manager need to focus on moving forward and not living off last season. Last season, it happened, and it's great. We're happy. First season was great. I love it. You did a great job your first season, but we need to keep moving for the future. You need to build on that. You need to get momentum. You need to improve, and you need to raise the standards. Dana B says, Slot. So, yeah, he knew how he would press with the 9 and 10. He said, we all kind of knew that. We could all see it from preseason. That's the way we're going to do it. It just seemed like Slot had, figured it out. They kind of just soaked up the pressure. They made those interceptions and made those tackles, and they just launched their counter. It wasn't even like super. It was just too easy to get past us again. It was literally the midfield hole was the same as it was last season. Danny B broke it down well how easy we were easy to get at. Yeah, I remember didn't Salah say something how easy it was? Whatever. Liverpool fans can worry about whether or not Salah's going to be there. And here's the thing too, going back to Arne Slot, he inherited a good squad. He has a really good squad. They've been doing this for a while, but he's going to lose Van Dijk soon. He's going to lose Mo Salah soon. He might lose Trent Alexander-Arnold soon. Alisson's not getting any younger. They still apparently need a 6, even though they bought 4 midfielders. Nobody really thinks Darwin Núñez is going to. So when Arne Slot has to start building and putting his own system, are they going to drop off? It's all well and good to come in and win a game against United with this team that you took over your 3rd game into the season. But can you do it your first season over the long run? Can you actually go through a rebuild once you start losing some of these good players you inherit or not? We'll see what happens. It didn't look like a super duper unique Arne Slot side. It looked a lot like Liverpool that we've seen for the last 5-6 years, with a little bit of Arne Slot sprinkled in. Well, yeah, Danny says 100 onward and upwards, no looking back, no excuses. I don't mind if you want to look back in your trophy cabinet at the end of the day. Like I said, we can sit here and banter Liverpool fans and tell them, yeah, Klopp did in his final season the same as Ten Hag did in his first season. Yeah, we knocked you guys out of the FA Cup. We can do that. We're not Manchester United manager. Manchester United manager needs to do a little bit better. And this is why I think Ten Hag was just a little frazzled, because he keeps clinging to that in all these press conferences. And it's not a good look, but we'll see. I don't envy managers in post-match pressers, especially after a loss. I would never want to have to do that. I would hate to deal with questions. And I would most definitely be fined and or sacked after some of my responses. I would just show up to the press conference with a blank check, ready to fill out whatever number they want to say is my fine for some of this shit that I would say. Because like I said in another video, like you guys ever watch Ted Lasso? I would be Roy Kent. The way I am here is the exact way I would be in a press conference. I don't care who you are. I don't care what protocols dictate I should be saying. If it's a stupid question, I'm going to call it out for being a stupid question. Like, I would have done the same thing about Alan Shearer. Like, that was disgusting the way Alan Shearer responded, so I don't have a problem with that. So listen, yesterday we were all still in our feelings, and we're angry, we're embarrassed. I get it, but this is why I waited a day to come back with 3 thoughts. Was it an acceptable performance? Absolutely not. Do some of these players need to have a look at themselves? Oh, you bet your ass they do. Should Ten Hag be feeling a little bit of pressure? Yeah, for sure. He should be. He's third season. A lot's going to be expected. But it's 3 games into the season. And for all intents and purposes, it's the same Liverpool squad, like I said, that's been so dominant in recent years. Despite the fact that Xerxes isn't going to be, I don't think Xerxes is going to be a 25-goal lead the line striker. That's just not really his profile. He will score some goals. Højlund will be back soon. We know Højlund scores a goal. Ugarte is going to be playing. The new players will bet in. It will get better. It's 3 matches into the season. Let's just ride it out, like we're saying, and see how there's a lot of football left to play, like I said yesterday. Let's try not to overreact. Let's try to avoid the fallacy of thinking that sacking the manager is the answer, because it's not the answer. We've tried it many times. It's never been the answer. Because we've seen over the last decade it's not the answer. Again, try to remember there's a lot of football to be played and a lot of matches and a lot of points on the table. 3 matches in the season is a drop in the ocean in the big picture. And we can do that. Oh, and Sir Jim, go and get Rabiot like yesterday, please, because we need some help in midfield. Rabiot, I'm not saying Rabiot is going to win us the league. I'm saying we need bodies in midfield. So that is my 3 thoughts. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. Go check out the link in the description if you guys are ready to buy a new jersey and you want to go get $5 off at GoGo Shop. You'll get my unique code in there, and you can go use that to get $5 off your next order. I appreciate GoGo Shop for hooking me up with that discount code for you guys. My whole thing is I try to give you guys' voice a platform. I try to show my appreciation. That's why I would do the giveaways. That's why I wanted to hook you up with a code. So go check them out. I've got a couple jerseys from GoGo Shop. Very good quality. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. Danny, Justin, Darkrow, and Asif, I appreciate you guys. It's going to be a little slower now that the transfer window is over. Like I said before, not going to be doing multiple videos every single day probably. But when the big stuff comes up, I will be here to get your opinions and share a little bit of my own. So thank you guys for stopping by. I will see you guys on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day. Danny, Nick, I will throw those shirts in the post tomorrow, Wednesday, as soon as I can. But thank you guys for helping us get up to 1,100 subscribers. Keep a lookout as the channel keeps growing, and just enjoy the ride. I'll talk to you later.